To Zoom, enter your meeting ID, followed by pound. You have not entered any numbers. Please re-enter. Enter your participant ID. You have entered the meeting as a panelist. Attendees can now hear you speak. This meeting is being recorded.
All right, everybody. How's it going? We're going to go ahead and get started here because I know we only have 30 minutes. This is recorded. I like to just kind of jump right in. So this is the second of our four-part series breaking down how you can use Claude to drive your business forward. I am dialed in. My Wi-Fi has been pretty spotty, so I'm dialing in over the phone. If you have questions, use the Q&A feature as we go here, because basically what I'm going to do is share my screen, and I'm going to build a full workflow out using Claude, which means it's probably not going to work perfectly. But if you have questions as we go along the way, just use the Q&A feature. I'll try and kind of monitor that and be able to dive in and answer questions as we go. But essentially what we're doing today, we're focused on sales and on outreach. So specifically what that means is we are targeting specific prospects. We're going to build an ideal customer profile. We are then going to build a prospect list of people that fit that ideal customer profile. And then we're going to send super personalized outreach, and we're going to automate all of that using Claude. So build a list of target customers, find who the ideal people are at those target accounts to reach out to, and then send them super personalized messaging in an automated, scalable way. So let's dive in. I am going to share my screen here. So for those of you who haven't downloaded Claude, this is what it looks like. This is its desktop app. So I would highly recommend that you download the desktop app for the Mac. And I'm just going to start things off. So here's a tangible example of something that we did here at Nobi. So Nobi, we're an AI shopping assistant that helps with your site search. But we started thinking, okay, we have a lot of success working with e-commerce brands, helping them do site search. What about car dealerships? Car dealerships are complicated websites. There's lots of different cars that you could shop for as a shopper. Wouldn't it be great if you had some like AI search that could just say, you know, instead of like blue minivan, you could say, hey, I'm, you know, father of three, looking to get a blue minivan, ideally, you know, less than 50K with a sunroof, right? Kind of the type of prompts that you put into ChatGPT. So that was an idea that we had 6 months ago. And what we did is basically say, hey, I'm targeting car dealerships in America. Help me think through who the ideal prospects would be to target for an AI site search like what we offer at Nobi. So a couple of things to point out here that are super critical anytime that you're using Claude in the desktop app. Number one is this kind of drop down here. So what this is a project folder. And essentially a project folder is like the brain that Claude is going to have to think through what it needs to do. So in this case, this folder Nobi has access to everything about my existing website. What does Nobi do? What is some of the success outcomes that we've been able to drive? A bunch of documents that I have, like that's all saved in a folder on my computer. And I've added it as a project so that when Claude's working on something, I don't have to get it up to speed on, you know, who Nobi is and what I'm even talking about. It just has access to that as a brain. The other thing to point out, probably more important, is the model. So you see there's like different models that you can choose. Definitely go with Opus 4.7. This is the most powerful model. You're not going to get great results using those other models. I'm going to go ahead and click Let's Go here because it does take a while to run through this. The last thing I'll say, just from an infrastructure standpoint, so definitely Opus, set up a project folder anytime you're working on a task. Make sure you reference the right kind of documentation and brain for Claude. And then the last thing is the actual subscription plan that you have. If you go certainly with the free plan, but even with like the $20 a month plan, you're going to burn through credits pretty quickly using Opus. So I would highly recommend that you pay for the Max plan. The Max can be like $100 to $200 a month, but I would argue this more than pays for itself. So here's what it came back with. Here's how I framed the ICP. Inventory breadth and on-site traffic are the right starting point. Yes, that's spot on. Like, we need websites that have a ton of traffic, and that traffic is trying to navigate a complex database of, broad inventory. So that's awesome. It was able to do that instantly because, again, it had access to that Nobi folder. Here's where those two factors peak. So this is interesting. Mid-size and large dealer groups, 3 to 30 rooftops are the sweet spot. Okay, cool. They aggregate this many units onto a single site. That's great. That makes sense. So this is all helping me figure out, like, this new idea of targeting dealerships. What is the right kind of ideal customer profile for us and why? So there's a lot of detail here. The last thing it says is want me to pull a target list using Apollo. So Apollo is a tool that we use for outreach. This is exactly what I wanted to do. I didn't even ask it to do that. So yes, build out a list of the top, let's say 100 US dealer groups in Apollo, and include decision makers at each of those dealers. So this is the power of Claude. It's not just a great chatbot that can like give you great answers, but it has access to your computer. So it can go in now to Apollo, the service that we use, and it can actually, either by using my computer or by using something called, you might have heard people talk about MCP, stands for Model Context Protocol. It's basically kind of a super highway that allows AI agent like this to get connected to a data set. So before I spin this up, let me clear. I mean, this is great. Like, I'm moving pretty quickly here because we're doing a live webinar, but in reality, I would kind of be more thoughtful. I want to create accounts and contacts in Apollo. And then which decision makers should I pull per company? I can check multiple. Let's say these 3. How many contacts? Yeah, let's say up to 3. I don't want to do too many. So this is it going into planning mode. It creates a plan. It asks you clarifying questions so that it's making sure that it knows exactly what to do. And then the next step is actually accessing Apollo through my computer based on this plan. So in the interest of time, I'm going to just skip ahead to what it actually built when I had it do this. So this here is Apollo. Apollo is what we use, like I said before, for prospecting and outreach. In the past, certainly at my last startup, we would spend weeks getting to a place that takes hours with Claude, where what Claude built out for me, you can see these 3 auto lists, is it built these lists in Apollo of prospects in the automotive space. And then I kind of chatted back and forth with it and said, hey, I'd like to segment these, separate these into different lists. Let's kind of create one for the VPC level folks at these dealerships. Let's create one for all the independent dealerships. And then let's create one just for Dallas-Fort Worth, because I'm based in Dallas and I want to actually target these folks not only online, but like in person going to the dealership. So I'd like to be able to segment. So it did that. It built these lists out. And it also built for me who are the right people at these dealerships, because it understands the competitive landscape of site search options that are available, who the decision makers are at each of these companies that would ultimately be, making a decision to buy a product like this. And it just built it out completely for me. So I've got this list that Claude built. And the next thing that I would do, and by the way, you can do these in parallel. So I'm going to click new task here. I'm actually realizing as I click, I forgot to mention something pretty important, which is up here. So when you're doing this type of work, there's 3 different kind of modalities in Claude. And again, you guys may know this. I don't know your level of familiarity with the tool. One is just chat, which is kind of like what you've experienced with ChatGPT. One is co-work, which is what we're doing here. So co-work is the one that actually allows Claude to get access to your computer, get access to some of these databases. This is cool, by the way. It's asking me, how do you want me to handle credit consumption? Proceed full scale. I'm fine with you using these credits. Yeah, that's fine. How should I handle groups already? Yeah, so this is part of the issue with the live demo. A lot of these are already in Apollo, so we'll just click that. So as mentioned, co-work, and then the last one is code, which I'll show you at the end how we get to code. For most of what I would, assume you guys are going to want to do, I would just use co-work. But let's go here to new task. So now, okay, I've got a list, right? Now I want to, okay, I've got these lists created. I want to do outreach. I want to do personalized outreach. So I'll say, go through this list. I'm going to just copy and paste it. This list here is the same list I just pulled up. So I'm going to say, hey, go through this list, pick the first 10 prospects. I want you to go to their website and navigate it as if you're a shopper. Maybe I should say that. And navigate the site as if you are a shopper. And take screenshots of their site search not hitting the mark with certain searches that an AI search would be able to handle. For example, show me family-friendly SUVs. Show me trucks that can tow 7,000 pounds, right? I'm giving Claude some example queries that I would bet are going to break on their site. And that's really it. I'm just kind of giving it guidance. Like, think of it, what I say to people all the time with these agents, especially as you get more and more comfortable with it, is think of it like an employee that you have, and you're just giving it instructions. Ideally, you're talking more kindly to the employee than I am in this demo, but that's the idea. It's like, hey, if I had an SDR, this is what I would tell that human SDR to do. I'd say, hey, go into Apollo. I have this lead list created, and I want you to, instead of just sending generic email, I want you to actually go onto their website and take screenshots. So Claude is wanting access to Chrome. I'm allowing access. This is what's going to allow it to then go into Apollo, which you see it's doing now. Go into that list, open up an individual prospect in that list. Then it's going to be able to see, okay, where does that person work? It's going to click the website of that dealership. And then it's going to go to that dealer site, and it's going to start typing in queries. So you'll see it kind of take over my computer here. So if we switch gears, okay, hey, this new window just got opened up. It says Claude started debugging this browser. This new window opened up. This is Claude. I didn't open that. It's going into my browser. It's going to pull up the list. Now it moves slow. So this is more of a kind of create the task, set it, get back to work, come back and check in on the task in 10, 15 minutes. But it's come in, and it's going to open up each one of these prospects. It's going to open up their dealership website, and then it's going to start typing queries, and it's going to take a screenshot of the bad results of that query. So it's pretty amazing what it's able to do. You'll see it saying, like, take screenshots. This is something it does pretty regularly as it goes through. So it's not actually taking yet the screenshot of that dealership website. But eventually what this gets to, and again, because these webinars are only 30 minutes, I don't really have time to allow the full task to run through, nor is that actually like a great use of you guys' time to like watch it go through this. But eventually what it does, I'll show you in a second, is it actually creates this customized email. So it's seeing in this list, I'm just gonna kind of resize this so we can kind of see it all side by side. So I can see the Apollo list here. It's auto independent regional directors. So it just tried going to that first prospect's website, Mergado Auto. That's a weird name, Mergado Auto. They tried going to that site, and it looks like it didn't work, right? The site can't be reached. That's not a Claude issue. That's probably a data integrity issue here. So you can see it thinking, okay, it's maybe trying different other sites, seeing if that one works. Again, almost like a human being trying to kind of like problem solve and navigate through this. But the first time I did this, I watched it and it got to the site. The site worked fine. And it was able to actually like take screenshots on that site and then pop those into customized emails. So again, this obviously takes a ton of time per prospect. And if you're asking it to do this for the first, 10 prospects in a list, this could take 30 minutes to an hour. But what comes out of all of this is something like this. Give me one second. By the way, any questions, feel free to use the Q&A. I'm kind of talking to a black box here, so I don't know if you guys are following. I don't even know if you can hear me. But let me know. Okay, so here it went into a site. So now it's been able to find a dealership site, which is great. It's using MCP in this case, Model Context Protocol. It doesn't matter what that is, but just kind of interesting to see how it goes through its thought process. And it's going to go navigate the site again. I'm not doing any of this. This is all Claude. And eventually what it spits out is something like this. So here's an example of a prospect that it ran this process for. It did screenshots of its site. And then I said, hey, these screenshots are great. I actually want you to create an email in Apollo for this prospect that actually references these screenshots. So let's look at these are all scheduled. I want one that was actually delivered. So Corbin Bracken at Park Place. So Claude wrote this entire email. Again, with input from me, but the idea was something along the lines of hey, I want to be able to email each of these prospects a personalized note saying, I tried searching your site for these things. It didn't work. Here's the evidence. Here's those screenshots that you took. And Claude managed that whole process. It kind of understood what I was trying to do. It went through, took screenshots of all those searches on all those sites, saved it to a folder, and then created the template in Apollo. Again, with my help. This isn't on autopilot. You have to kind of go back and forth with it. But it created the template. And it was basically this stuff's all standardized. First name, I tried searching your site for things like, this is custom content that Claude knows because it's actually typed those queries in. So it organized this as here's the query I tried. And then either got no results or vehicles that didn't match. We might be able to help you guys. Here's a screenshot so that it's not coming across as just some random email that okay, you actually did that. No, here's a screenshot. I searched this specific thing on your site and here's what came back. It was basically no results, adjust your search. And then, I'm building an AI assistant, right? So the rest of this feels like a normal email, but the beauty in what Claude provides is the personalization to be able to say, I actually tried this on your site. Here's a screenshot of what I got back. And the automation of every single prospect that I should be going after with this type of messaging, what's going to resonate and why, and what are examples of things that are breaking on their site and how my product can actually help them. So in the end, we had only 165 total emails, 106 of which were delivered, 11 opened, 3 interested. The next thing I had it do was on the calling front. I said, okay, I think car dealerships are more likely to pick up the phone than a typical company. So I want you to go in and build the same thing you did with emails, but build a lead list in Apollo for calling. And then Apollo has this cool feature, which is called a parallel dialer, where it basically, you can load up, let's see if I can actually do one right now. You can load up 100 prospects and call all of them in 15 minutes because it'll dial 3 of them at a time. So I'll go into my tasks here. Let's go to call tasks, yeah. okay, call tasks, right? I can pick, say, 50 of them, hit apply, and hit this call button. It's going to make me select a local phone number. I can do that, right? This is all happening over VoIP. So I have to set up a phone number. I had deactivated this before. But anyway, you can do this, click call, and what happens is, okay, I need phone numbers. I will ask Claude, hey, Claude, this list, I need you to go in and make sure each of these guys have active phone numbers. Or in this case, Apollo makes it really easy. I just click this button and it's going to enrich them. It's going to use my credits. I click this parallel dialer. What's cool about this is, okay, this is cold calling, but like with a parallel dialer. What's cool about this is as I call each of these people, what opens up is what I showed you guys before. So when I hear the connect, I'm cold calling, 50 people and it's 3 at a time, and I get a connection with Christopher Gregory. I open this up and I can see the email that I sent Christopher. And so I don't have to prep for that call. I'm just immediately in the call. Hey, Christopher, do you have 10 seconds? I did a search on your site. It didn't work. Here was the query that I put in. Here's what came back, right? Like all of that for the person on the call, they're like, holy shit, this is super personalized. Like this guy's taking a lot of time to audit through our site, figure out what searches aren't working, and they're much more likely to give you the time. Same thing here in person when I would go to dealerships in DFW, right? I would just pull up Apollo and see what Claude had written from its, site audit. See literally the email I sent that person and saying, look, like, here's what's going on. Let's pull it up on your site. I can recreate it. Like, are you guys thinking about this? Is this priority? So really just handling the full SDR workflow in a super personalized way. The last thing I want to speak to, and I'm sure there's questions. Sorry, I should check the Q&A here. Give me 1 second. The last thing I want to speak to is this is all super top of the funnel. So prospects that you think should be interested in your tool, but you're just trying to get a pulse from them. You're trying to get them on a call, whatever. What about if you've had a conversation, right? You're lucky to close 1 out of 5, 1 out of 10 of the discovery calls that you have. So the next way that we've been using Claude is if we actually have a qualified prospect that we've spoken with, we've done this work with them of like auditing their site and showing them what doesn't work. And then we just kind of say like, hey, this is the problem that Nobi can solve. But ideally what would be awesome is if we could just like put it on their site, put Nobi on their site and like show them what it looks like. You can't do that. You can't just put technology, you can't put a script on someone's site without them approving it. But one of the sites we talked to was the biggest site here in Dallas, Sewell. So with Sewell, we had a meeting. They were super interested. They're like, yeah, this makes sense. This kind of drop-down thing is not the best way to search for a car. Like I get it. I could see where something like this, it would just be much easier to have like an AI search bar. But then it just kind of dies on the vine, right? Because it's like, oh, that could be interesting. But then other priorities come up. So what we did is we actually went into Claude and said, and this guy's still working away. So what I'm going to do again is do a new task. And let's try, sorry, it's saying my headphones connected. I don't want that. Okay. Let's try here. Okay. One of the dealers we're talking to right now is Sewell. All right, Claude is like way too big on the screen and now it's way too small. So specifically Sewell Lexus, because they had mentioned. Sewell Lexus, they had mentioned an interest in having Nobi on that site. Can you, this is where it gets crazy. Okay, so can you completely rebuild their site from scratch and install Nobi on that replica to show what it could look like? this was like a holy shit moment the first time we tried this. So we did this. This takes a while. And this is where it starts getting into code. But by the way, when I say a while, it takes like a couple hours. Like it's insane that it can do this at all, let alone in like 120 minutes. But what it does here is you have to start getting into code, getting into command line. A lot of people hear that and they think, oh my God, I can't do that. It's actually really easy. And once again, the answer to how you do it is you just talk to Claude. Like, hey, walk me through how to do this. How should I build the tool? So build it as a multi-page site. How should Nobi be embedded? Production, yep. Nobi script. Where should the final output live? Yeah, we can do local, that's fine. And what it does is Claude goes in and it crawls every single detail of the Sewell website, and the finished product looks like this, which looks basically exactly the same as the Sewell website. There are like little details that you could tell but I would bet most of the employees that work there, if they saw this, would not notice a difference at all. Probably if you're on the marketing team or something and you manage the site every day, you might notice little details, but this is insane. Like it just completely recreated the site. And you can tell because look at the URL up here, Sewell-Lexus demo Vercel. So again, I did this all in code. It gave me all the files, and then you just have to deploy it through code on your computer. But we have a live working version of the Sewell site with Nobi embedded. So I can say, okay, now we don't have those drop downs. I can say like, show me family-friendly minivans. Of course, this isn't going to work. Let me do a hard refresh. Okay. Show me family-friendly minivans with sunroof. And so we were able to create this and basically show them. This was like a carrot that we dangled for them to get back into a meeting with us. It's like, hey guys, we've actually like built a demo version of your website and installed Nobi on it, so we can show, and we've loaded up your full product inventory. In this case, of course, live demo. I picked something that they actually don't have. This is Lexus. Why am I asking for minivans? But this is a great way to get like interested prospects. If you have a software solution or something and you want to be able to show like, if you put this on your website, this is what it would look like. You can literally rebuild their site using Claude Code and install your tool in it. And basically they have this. So now they're sharing this internally, and now we've moved past like, should we do this? And now it's more like how we would do it. Like what would this, so they're coming back with feedback like, hey, I didn't like how it gave this, but it's like, this is awesome. We're talking about like, not if we'll go live, but more like when we do, how does this thing need to change? So it's also just helping us bypass like a lot of steps in a sales process. They may still not close, but the fact that we're able to do this in a matter of, minutes is pretty nuts. Okay, we are basically at time, so I'm going to wrap up. I don't know if I even have Q&A on, so I will check and see. Nobody has asked any questions. Okay, hopefully no questions means this was crystal clear and super valuable. Or if it's not and you have follow-up questions, please let me know. Just recapping what we did here. We identified a market that we should be selling into. We built an ideal prospect list of prospects that we should be reaching out to in that market. And then we created super personalized emails in Apollo where Claude took screenshots of their website and dumped them into personalized emails. And then the last thing we did is like actually literally build someone's site from scratch and show them what our product looks like on that site. So if you guys have any questions, please email me. This is pretty easy to set up. Again, use the Claude desktop app if you are overwhelmed and you'd rather somebody else do this for you. We do AI agent consulting for companies. So we're working with some companies right now that want to harness the power of Claude and what you've seen here, but don't have the time or the patience or whatever to be able to spin this up. In either case, reach out. My email is tyler@nobi.ai. That's nobi.ai. And yeah, hope you have fun messing around with these tools, and let me know if there's anything we can do to be helpful. Hope y'all have a great rest of the week, and we'll talk soon. Take care.